Amarachi, Amarachi, will you sleep till the sun burns your useless head? The bamboo door crashed open with a loud thud. Her stepmother's voice tore through the air like a thunderclap. She stood in the doorway, anger already burning in her eyes. Amarachi shot up from her bamboo bed, her heart racing. She was only 19, her frame slender, her spirit already bruised by too many mornings like this. Her stepmother, simply called Nkem, roared in anger. You're still lying there like a princess. Do you expect the gods to sweep the compound for you? Get up this instant. I'm sorry, Mama. Amarachi's voice quivered. She quickly rose, her bare feet hitting the cold, cracked floor. Sorry? Nkem mocked, stepping closer until her heavy breath filled the small room. Will sorry cook breakfast? Will sorry put firewood in the kitchen? Who do you think will do your job for you? Me? Or my precious daughter? Tears welled in Amarachi's eyes, but she kept her head low. I'll sweep now, Mama. You better, Nkem hissed, grabbing the broom by the wall and slamming it into her hands. And when you're done sweeping, light the fire and make pap and akara. Then off to the forest you go. The firewood you brought last time barely lasted 2 days. Lazy girl. She turned and walked out of the hut. The door slammed again, and silence returned except for Amarachi's muffled sobs. She sank to her knees, clutching the broom. The tears came hot and fast, falling on the dusty floor as she whispered to herself, Mama, if you were here, maybe life wouldn't hurt this much. Her shoulders trembled, but she forced herself to move. She stepped out of the hut and began to sweep the compound. The early morning breeze greeted her with cool fingers. When the compound was clean, she walked toward the kitchen shed made of wood and clay. She blew softly on the cold ashes, added dry sticks, and struck the firestone until sparks danced to life. Soon, thin smoke rose, curling into the morning sky. She placed the pot on the fire, poured water, and began to stir the pap. Every movement came with a tear. Her hands trembled as she sliced onions into the bean paste for akara. When the pap was ready, she called her stepmother and informed her. Nkem stepped out of the main hut and walked into the kitchen. Without a word, she snatched the ladle from Amarachi's hand and began to serve. She filled 2 large bowls to the brim. These are for me and my daughter, she said coldly. Then she dipped the ladle again and poured a much smaller portion into a cracked calabash. This one is for you, she said with a sneer. You don't need much to swing a broom and carry wood. Amarachi swallowed hard, blinking fast to stop the tears that returned to her eyes. Then Nkem filled another small bowl, her tone suddenly practical. And this one take it to that man you call father. Feed him quickly before you go. If not for you, he'd have starved long ago. He is nothing but a burden. Amarachi's lips trembled. Yes, Mama Nkem, she whispered, taking the bowl carefully in both hands. As she turned to leave, Nkem's voice followed. When you're done feeding your precious father, head straight to the bush. I want firewood enough to last the week, you hear me? If you return before sunset without a heavy load, you'll sleep outside tonight. Yes, Mama, Amarachi said, her voice barely audible. She walked across the compound toward her father's hut, balancing the bowl with trembling hands. When she reached her father's hut, she pushed the door open gently with her foot. The air inside was thick and still. Her father laid helpless on a bamboo bed, his limbs stiff and motionless. His eyes moved slowly toward her, but he could not speak. He hadn't spoken a word in 5 years. "Papa," she whispered, kneeling beside him. Her tears spilled freely now. "I brought your food." She placed the bowl on a stool, dipped a wooden spoon into the pap, and blew softly before lifting it to his lips. He swallowed with effort, his eyes glistening with gratitude. A faint sound escaped his throat, half a breath, half a groan. "I know, Papa," Amarachi said, forcing a smile through her tears. "I know what you want to say. You want me to be strong, but it's hard." Her father's eyes filled with tears. His hand twitched slightly on the mat, a helpless attempt to comfort her. Amarachi broke down then. She buried her face in her palms, her shoulders shaking. "Every day I pray for you to get well," she sobbed. 5 years, Papa. 5 years I've been feeding and cleaning you. 5 years I've been praying, and still the gods are silent. The room was filled with her quiet crying and the soft buzz of morning insects outside. When she was done feeding him, she washed the bowl and placed it aside. She spread a clean wrapper over his legs, tidied the mat, and swept the floor around his bed. Then she stepped out of his hut, tied her wrapper tight, picked up her machete and rope. Then, without a word, she began walking toward the forest path to fetch firewood. The morning sun was still shy, hiding behind clouds as Amarachi walked toward the forest path. Every step seemed to awaken memories buried deep inside her. Amarachi was born in Ogute village. Her father, simply known as Papa Uche, was one of the most successful farmers in the village, married to 2 women, Ngozi and Nkem, with Ngozi, Amarachi's mother, being the first wife. Ngozi was a very beautiful and kind woman, loved by all. The second wife also had Oluchi, her daughter of about the same age with Amarachi. The 2 girls grew like twin seedlings, inseparable, chasing goats across the compound and fetching water from the stream. Everything seemed perfect. Amarachi was the apple of her mother's eyes. However, life had other plans. Amarachi was only 10 when her world came crashing down. It was a rainy night. Nkem had travelled to her mother's hometown with Oluchi, her daughter. Everyone had retired to their rooms when Ngozi suddenly screamed from her room. Papa Uche, her husband, who was tidying up after the day's work, rushed into the room to find his wife, lying motionless, her body cold. He called her name severally, shook her violently, but there was no response. She was gone. By dawn, the news of her demise had gone round the village, shaking the villagers to their bones. She was laid to rest 1 month later. After that day, Papa Uche was never the same. He missed Ngozi dearly. Nkem, however, played the role of the dutiful wife, bringing him food, comforting words, and helping with the harvest. She kept the house running, cared for Amarachi the same way she cared for her own child. Life gradually returned to the normal rhythm, though Amarachi missed her mother dearly. But then, when Amarachi turned 14, disaster struck again. It was a bright morning during planting season. Papa Uche had joined his workers on the farm. He was talking to the head of workers when he suddenly collapsed. He was still breathing but couldn't move. His eyes were open, but his tongue was heavy. They carried him home, called healers, but none could heal him. He became completely paralyzed. Nkem took full control after that. She managed his farmlands and money, making sure everyone in the village saw her as the good wife. Yet inside the house, Amarachi became the servant of the house, doing all the house chores and solely caring for her father. Every day she fed him, cleaned him, and prayed that one day he would wake and call her name again. But he never did. The memory burned behind Amarachi's eyes as she finally reached the edge of Umunta forest. She lifted her machete and began to cut and gather woods. By the time she gathered the last bundle of firewood, the sun had begun to sink behind the trees, painting the forest in shades of orange and shadow. She wiped the sweat from her face with the back of her arm, her wrapper clinging to her damp skin. The pile of wood she had cut was larger than usual. Her arms trembled as she lifted it onto her head, but she managed. Fetching firewood had long stopped being a chore. It was a routine. The village children nicknamed her the Firewood Girl. Every 2 days she went to the forest, sometimes returning at nightfall. Her stepmother never thanked her. Rather, she had one thing or the other to complain about the kind of wood she returned with. As she walked back through the bush path toward the village, she quickly wiped her tears that had refused to stop falling. When she reached their compound, Nkem was sitting on a wooden chair, legs crossed, fanning herself lazily. Oluchi sat beside her, giggling at a story her mother was telling. Nkem's eyes caught Amarachi at once. "So you finally remembered you have a home," she said, voice sharp. "Or did you sleep in the forest?" Amarachi dropped the firewood gently by the wall and bent her knees in greeting. "Good evening, Mama." "Don't you dare call me that," Nkem snapped, standing abruptly. "I am not your mother. Your mother is lying beneath the ground behind that mango tree. Go and greet her instead." The words hit Amarachi like stones. She bit her lip, fighting back tears. "I'm sorry, Ma," she said as she began to sob gently. Nkem leaned back in her chair and continued. "And remember, Amarachi, whatever happens in this house stays in this house. Don't you dare go running your mouth to anyone in this village. If I ever hear you've been telling people stories, I'll make sure those lips never open again. Do you understand me?" "Yes, Ma," Amarachi said again, her voice trembling. That night, Amarachi sat behind the hut with her knees pulled to her chest. She stared at the stars, remembering how her mother used to tell her that each star carried a person's prayer. She whispered softly, "Mama, can you still hear me? Do you see me crying every day?" But the night wind only answered with silence. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. But Nkem's cruelty only deepened. Whenever visitors came, she put on a gentle smile, speaking sweetly and pretending to care for Amarachi. But once they left, her tongue became venom again. Sometimes, she would make Amarachi cook all the meals and then forbid her from eating. Other times, she would send her alone to fetch water from the farthest stream, even when Oluchi was idle and laughing with friends. When Amarachi tried to rest, Nkem would scold. "Who told you to sit down? If not for pity, I would have sent you out long ago. Your mother left nothing but a curse." One afternoon, after a particularly harsh morning when Nkem had beaten her for accidentally breaking a plate, Amarachi ran to the backyard to cry. Her only friend, Ifunanya, a girl from the neighboring compound, found her there when she sneaked in to see her dear friend. "Amarachi," she whispered, crouching beside her. "Why do you let her treat you like this? You're not her slave." Amarachi wiped her face quickly. "If I talk back, she'll beat me more. I can't." Ifunanya's eyes softened. "Then run away. Come with me to my aunt's village. You'll be safe there. My aunt will take you in. You don't have to live like this." Amarachi shook her head, tears falling again. "I can't leave, Ifunanya. My father, he needs me. Who will feed him if I go? Who will clean him or talk to him? He can't even lift his hand. If I leave, he'll die." Ifunanya sighed deeply, holding her hand. She said nothing more. She just pulled Amarachi into a gentle hug. And for a moment, Amarachi let herself cry freely, not the quiet tears she shed in secret, but the deep, aching kind that came from a wounded soul. When she pulled away, Ifunanya whispered, "One day the gods will save you. And when that day comes, may your tears become blessings." That night, as Amarachi fed her father, she spoke softly to him, though she knew he couldn't answer. "Papa," she whispered, "I won't leave you. No matter what they do to me, I'll stay, because one day you'll open your eyes and call my name again. And when you do, I want to be here to hear it." Nkem continued to maltreat Amarachi until something mysterious happened one day. Amarachi had just turned 19. She set out for the forest again to fetch firewood, her machete and rope in her hand. For years now, fetching firewood had become her routine, the only part of life she controlled. Here, among the trees, she could cry without being mocked, sigh without being heard, and speak her mother's name without fear. She got to the forest and began to cut and gather woods. By midday, she had gathered enough. The bundle was large, strong, and heavy enough to last the house for days. She tied it neatly and sat down on a fallen tree to rest for a while. The forest was silent. The thought of returning home, to Nkem's sneers and Oluchi's laughter, made her chest tighten. She buried her face in her palms and began to cry, her sobs low and broken. Her tears dropped onto the red soil, making small dark spots. After a while, her crying softened into a hum, a song her mother used to sing while working. She was still singing when she heard footsteps, slow, heavy ones, and the faint creak of wood. She looked up quickly, brushing her tears away. An old woman was walking along the narrow path, her back bent beneath a bundle of firewood twice her size. Her grey hair was tied in a loose scarf, and her wrapper was faded but clean. Her feet were bare, and her breathing was laboured. Amarachi's heart stirred with concern. She stood at once and hurried toward her. "Mama," she said softly, "please let me help you with that." The old woman turned slowly. Her eyes were deep and kind. "Ah, my daughter," she said, "this load is heavy and the road is long. Are you sure you want to help?" "Yes, Mama, let me help you," Amarachi replied. Before the woman could protest, Amarachi lifted the bundle from her head. It was heavy, heavier than she had expected, but she bore it step by step, following as the old woman led her along a narrow path she hadn't noticed before. They walked until the trees opened into a small clearing. There stood a little hut, built from clay and palm leaves. They walked to the hut, and Amarachi gently dropped the bundle of firewood in front of the hut. The old woman smiled and motioned her in. "You have a good heart, my child. Sit and rest. Let me thank you properly." Amarachi shook her head quickly. "No, Mama, I should go. I still have my own bundle to carry home." But the woman insisted, her tone gentle. You will not leave my home with hunger in your eyes. Sit." Amarachi hesitated, then obeyed. The old woman brought her a wooden bowl of steaming food and a small calabash of water. The smell made Amarachi's stomach tighten, but she shook her head. "Thank you, Mama, but I'm fine." The woman looked at her, eyes warm. "You are not fine. Your soul is tired. Even your tears smell of pain. Eat." Something in her voice, soft yet powerful, made Amarachi's resistance melt. Slowly, she took the bowl and began to eat. The food was simple, yam porridge with vegetables, but it tasted like nothing she'd ever had before. Warmth spread through her body, and for the first time in years, she felt full, not just in her stomach, but in her heart. When she finished, she got up, thanked the old woman, and turned to leave, but the woman called her back. She handed her a small gourd, plain, brown, and sealed with palm leaves. "Take this," the woman said. "It is filled with water from the heart of this forest. When you reach home, sprinkle a little on your father's body. Only a little. Then place the rest by his bedside until morning. Do not open it for anything else." "Thank you, Mama," she said simply, bowing her head respectfully. Amarachi followed the path back the way she had come, and when she reached the clearing where her own bundle lay, she looked around once more, but the path to the woman's hut was gone. Amarachi tucked the gourd into her wrapper, lifted her firewood onto her head, and began the long walk home. By the time she reached home, the compound was quiet. Nkem and Oluchi were nowhere to be seen, perhaps at a neighbour's place or visiting one of Nkem's trader friends. For once, the silence felt like peace. Amarachi set down her bundle of firewood by the kitchen wall and went straight to her father's hut. Her father lay as usual, motionless, eyes half closed, chest rising and falling slowly. She placed the small gourd carefully on the floor beside him. She remembered the old woman's words. "Sprinkle a little on his body, then keep the rest till morning." Is bead. She opened the gourd just slightly. Her hands trembled as she dipped her fingers in and sprinkled the first few drops on her father's chest, whispering, "Papa, please wake up." For a moment, nothing happened. Then he stirred gently. His hand twitched faintly. His eyes fluttered just a little. Amarachi gasped, nearly dropping the gourd. She bent closer, watching in disbelief as his fingers moved again. "Papa?" she whispered, voice trembling. "Can you hear me?" There was no answer. Her father closed his eyes again. Amarachi placed the gourd inside a small woven basket beside his bed, exactly as she had been told, then covered it with a cloth. "Sleep well, Papa," she murmured, kissing his forehead. She left quietly and went to the kitchen. There, she made porridge with the yam they had left. Nkem returned later that night, dished a little portion of the food for Amarachi as usual. At dawn, Amarachi woke up early, fetched and filled all the water pots with water, then made her way to her father's hut to check on him as usual. The moment she pushed open the bamboo door, she froze. Her father was sitting upright on the bed, not lying, not struggling, sitting. His eyes were open, clear, alive. For a heartbeat, Amarachi couldn't breathe. Then the scream tore out of her chest, pure, uncontrollable joy. "Papa!" she screamed, running to him. "Papa, you're sitting! You're awake!" He turned his head slowly, smiling faintly, the same gentle smile she had prayed to see again. "My daughter." His voice was soft but steady, like a miracle carried on air. "My Amarachi." The sound of her name from his lips broke her completely. She fell to her knees, sobbing and laughing at once, holding his hands as though afraid he would vanish. Her cry drew Nkem, who came rushing in. "What is it? Why are you shouting?" She stopped short, her eyes widening. "Uche," she breathed. "You're sitting up?" Her husband nodded slowly. "Yes," he said, his voice still weak, but full of peace. Nkem blinked rapidly, forcing a smile. Oh, thank the gods! What a miracle!" She hurried forward and threw her arms around him. The forced smile faltered for a heartbeat, then returned. "How did this happen?" she asked quickly, her tone too bright. "What did you do, Amarachi?" Amarachi wiped her tears. "It was yesterday, Mama. I met an old woman in the forest. She looked tired and was carrying a heavy load, so I helped her to her hut. She thanked me and gave me a small gourd of water, telling me to sprinkle some on Papa and keep the rest by his bed until morning. I did as she said, and now," her words trailed off suddenly. "The gourd?" Amarachi turned toward the basket beside her father's bed. "Let me show you," she said, lifting the cloth. But when she looked inside, she froze. It wasn't the gourd that greeted her. The basket was filled with dazzling treasures, gold ornaments, silver bangles, strings of shining beads, and small stones that sparkled like captured stars. Her mouth fell open. "Papa! The gourd! It's gone!" Nkem gasped, shocked at what she saw. Papa Uche only stared at his daughter, Amarachi, his eyes glistening with emotion. He reached out and pulled her close, his voice trembling. "My daughter," he said softly, "your suffering is over. Heaven has remembered you." Amarachi broke down again, crying into his shoulder as he stroked her hair gently. Nkem forced a shaky laugh and stood. "Ah, this is wonderful indeed," she said too quickly, wrapping her arms around her husband from behind. "Our miracle! God has remembered our home." But Papa Uche's eyes did not turn toward her. His gaze remained fixed on Amarachi, the child who had carried his pain and kept his name alive. Amarachi gently lifted the basket of jewels and placed it before him. "Papa, this is for you," she whispered. He looked at it, then at her. Then he raised his eyes heavenward, murmuring, "Gods of our land, I thank you for my daughter. Let her days be filled with joy from this day forth." Nkem stood beside them, smiling tightly, while her eyes burned with envy she could not hide. Amarachi knelt once more and took her father's hands. "Papa," she said softly, "I love you." He smiled again, pulling her close. "I love you too, my child." In the weeks that followed, joy returned to the household like rain after drought. Papa Uche's strength grew each day until he was able to walk again. He returned to his farmland. Soon the fields flourished again, and the villagers were happy to see him back on his feet again. As for the gold and precious gifts from the strange old woman, Papa Uche sold some to a group of white men who visited Oguta. The white men bought them for more money than anyone in Oguta had ever seen. By the next moon, Papa Uche's wealth had multiplied. He built a larger house beside the old one, roofed with new zinc sheets that shone in the sun. He bought more land, more cattle, and hired workers to help on the farm. Before long, he became the richest man after the king. The village elders visited often, praising him for his humility and generosity. And through it all, Papa Uche remained gentle and kind. He never once mentioned Nkem's cruelty during his sickness. He didn't scold her, didn't seek revenge, didn't even bring it up. Instead, he treated her with quiet respect, as if nothing had ever happened. But his silence made Nkem restless. She feared he might one day send her away, remind her of her wickedness, and throw her out. But he never did. He never raised the past. His only revenge was silence. And that made her guilt feel heavier than punishment ever could. Papa Uche took care of his 2 daughters, but his love for Amarachi was deeper. Everyone saw it. He bought her new clothes and always gave her the choicest food. Nkem noticed, and her heart hardened. She became very jealous. Jealous of the bond between Papa Uche and Amarachi, jealous of how Amarachi came about her wealth. She decided to start sending her own daughter, Oluchi, to the forest too, hoping she would also encounter the strange woman. One cool evening, Nkem called Oluchi into her room. "Listen to me," she whispered sharply. "From tomorrow, you will start fetching firewood. You will go to the forest and bring back bundles of firewood. I pray you also see the strange woman who blessed Amarachi." Oluchi hesitated. "But Mama, I don't even know the forest paths. Besides, Father already employed domestic helps." Nkem's eyes narrowed. "You will go tomorrow morning. That is final." Oluchi nodded slowly, fear glinting in her eyes. First thing the next morning, Oluchi carried a rope and machete and made her way toward Umunta forest. Amarachi was surprised, but said nothing. At first, Oluchi returned home angry and empty-handed. The forest frightened her more than she would ever admit. The shadows were too thick, the birds too quiet, the air too heavy. Still, she went every few days for 2 long months, hoping to meet the old woman Amarachi had spoken of. Each time she came home without luck, her mother scolded her. "Keep going," Nkem urged, her tone sharp. "The gods test patience before blessing it. Do you think Amarachi found her easily? Go again, my daughter. You must bring our own miracle." "But Mama," Oluchi complained one evening, dropping her rope with a thud. "I'm tired. That forest is full of mosquitoes and mud, and I haven't seen any old woman carrying firewood. What if she doesn't exist?" Nkem turned on her sharply. "Don't talk like that. She exists. If Amarachi met her, you will too. You just have to wait. And when you do, make sure you collect your own gourd, but don't you dare share it with anyone. It will be our secret." Oluchi sighed, but nodded. So she kept going. The 3rd month came and went. Yet she didn't see the old woman. Her mother kept encouraging her. Finally, one late afternoon, 4 months since her first journey, Oluchi's patience seemed to pay off. She was walking along the quiet edge of the forest, wiping sweat from her forehead, when she saw a movement ahead. There, between 2 tall iroko trees, an old woman walked slowly, bent under the weight of a massive bundle of firewood. Oluchi stopped. Her heart leaped. At last, but instead of rushing to help, she stood watching. The woman's steps were slow, her breathing heavy. After a few paces, she stopped, resting her load against a stump. Then she turned slightly and looked straight at Oluchi. "Child," she called softly, her voice gentle. Please, help an old woman. Oluchi snorted, her arms crossed. Help you? You mean me, the daughter of Papa Uche, should carry firewood for a poor old woman like you? I didn't come here to carry firewood for anyone. She turned to walk away, then stopped suddenly, remembering her mother's words and her reason for coming. Her pride melted into haste. She turned back quickly. Wait, I'll carry it. Give me the load. The old woman looked at her for a long moment, her gaze unreadable. Then she nodded slowly and stepped aside. Thank you, child. Oluchi grabbed the bundle and hoisted it onto her head, struggling to balance it. Ah, this thing is too heavy. Why are you carrying so much? She grumbled. The woman only smiled faintly. Follow me. Oluchi followed her deeper into the forest until they reached the same small clearing the one Amarachi had described, with a neat clay hut and smoke rising gently from the roof. The woman turned to her. You may drop it here. Oluchi dropped the bundle with a sigh of relief and immediately wiped her face with her scarf. There, I've helped you. Now, do you have something for me or not? The old woman's smile faded, but her voice remained calm. Patience, my daughter. Sit and rest. Let me thank you properly. I'm fine, Oluchi said quickly, waving her hand. Just give me what you gave my sister. The old woman went into her hut and returned with a small brown gourd sealed with palm leaves. Take this, she said softly. When you get home, open it and... Oluchi snatched it from her hand, her lips curling into a triumphant grin, not even waiting for the woman to finish speaking. Finally, it took months, but I did it, she murmured. She turned to leave without a word of thanks, her steps quick and careless. The old woman watched her disappear into the trees, shaking her head. By the time Oluchi reached home, dusk had fallen. Nkem was already waiting in her room, pacing like a restless cat. When she saw the gourd in her daughter's hand, her eyes widened with greedy delight. You found her? She whispered. Yes, Mama, I saw her today. She gave me this. Oluchi held it up proudly. She said I should open it. Nkem clapped her hands softly. Ah, the gods have remembered us. Quickly, come inside. They shut the door tight, their whispers filling the room. Let's not tell anyone, Nkem said, lowering her voice. Especially Amarachi. We'll surprise them in the morning. Oluchi nodded eagerly. After making sure the door was securely locked, Nkem took the gourd and opened it. A faint, sweet scent filled the air. They both leaned closer. They heard a faint hum. What's that sound? Oluchi whispered. Before Nkem could answer, the air erupted with chaos. From the gourd came out a dark swarm of bees, hundreds, thousands buzzing violently, their wings flashing gold in the lamplight. They filled the room in seconds, attacking without mercy. Nkem screamed first. Oluchi shrieked beside her, swatting wildly as the bees stung her arms, her neck, her scalp. The gourd slipped from Nkem's hand and shattered, releasing even more. They ran for the door, screaming as they burst into the night, their cries echoing through the compound. Amarachi and Papa Uche rushed out, shouting, "What is happening?" But Nkem and Oluchi didn't stop. They kept running through the dark path, screaming as the swarm chased them mercilessly. The night swallowed their cries, but the bees did not stop. Neither mother nor daughter knew that their suffering had only just begun and that the real punishment was yet to come. Watch out for part 2. The story is far from over.